So I've made a few other videos where I've talked a bit about HTML and how to use it, and many of the tags of HTML, but these are some other not so common tags that I didn't really cover in those videos, so I wanted to cover them in this video here. This is going to be kind of a miscellaneous bunch of tags, as well as the HTML entities. The common entities are also going to be in this video. So yeah, we're going to talk about this is more extensive, going into some of the HTML stuff. So let's get into it. So yeah, block quote, that's a common way to create an indent of a block. So I have one block quote element creating one indent, and then within that I have an additional block quote creating a second indent. So here we can see, we've just got some text like it showed up there at the top, some more text down there at the bottom. That's what we showed here. And then the first line of indent text is within, within a block quote. But then within that block quote, there's an additional block quote that created the extra indent that we can now see here. So that's one tag, is the block quote. It's all one word, all lowercase, is block quote. Put inside the text what you want to create an indent for. Now ideally these should be in paragraphs or something like, well actually I did. I put it into a paragraph down here too. This is supposed to be a P tag. So yeah, it should all be within a paragraph, as you can see. Paragraph, paragraph, or whatever other stuff you used. If you used it within a table cell or something like that, you could also use that. But it's it's a way of adding that indentation within the text. Alright, so now let's talk about some of the text pre-formatting tags. These are especially useful when you combine them with CSS to provide some additional things on here. So pre-formatted is the pre tag. That's this critter right here, pre, and it preserves the white space, as we can see here. Pre-formatted text preserves white space. I've got tabs in there, I've got line drops and all that, and normally in HTML you don't have the white space, as I'm going to show further down on one of my last things as I show you the entities. By default, HTML does not show the entities. You've got to create that yourself. You've got to enforce the entities. You've got to enforce the white space with entities or with BR tags, which you can use to break rows, which that's to drop a line, BR. But I believe I covered that in my first video. So, but BR, if I haven't covered it, it is here now. Breaks row. Alright, so code, this is more for like showing a sample of some computer code. You would use that, but as you can see here, it's changed the format of the text a little bit. This is normal, this is different. And the idea is you could style that with some CSS. In fact, actually, I'm going to create a quick styling of that. Alright, and let's give it a nice lime green picture here with a black background. So that should see. So now I can format that. I could even change the font and everything else if I wanted to create a real blocky font, whatever I wanted to use. But that's the point behind the code tag. And you can use these things here to accent something else within a paragraph and say, hey, here's a snippet of some code, here's some JavaScript as you would write it. And so that's one way of doing that. And then sample output of a program is a SAMP tag. And a lot of these guys I got to break the row for manually. That's that BR tag that I told you about. Because these are designed to be able to be used in line with other text. I've also got KBD, which is for keyboard input, and var, which is for a variable. These are all things that, yeah, they do have a little bit of a default difference, but I would definitely, if I was going to use CSS, I would definitely style those things up differently. You know, maybe create something on there. You know, give it an extra style, but it's an extra tag that you could use for that. Var is for the variable, yeah. And once again, another one, an abbreviation or acronym, abbrev. And then address. That would be for like a mailing address or something like that. Let's take a look here at the marquee tag after we get done looking at the others. So you can see all of these different styles, but the thing is as I showed you with the code, we can really change this up however we want to. With a CSS video, you can see more about how to really play with this, go further, and use that CSS. If it's not out at the time you're watching it, I'm sure it soon will be. Alright, marquee. Here we got marquee text. It kind of just floats all across there. Okay, it's text that you can use to really bring out its attention to itself. It goes across, it comes back. Marquee. Anything which is in there, it's a very easy thing. You could just type in the marquee tag, and any of that marquee text goes within that tag, and it will create a full marquee. Alright, so entities. This is how we create text that might be confused with something else. So we'll see here we got text, and we got, well, what, 5 spaces in here? But is it showing 5 spaces out here? No, it's not, because HTML automatically eats your white space. So that's where a space tag needs to be done, or I'm sorry, entity. These are named entities. You can also use a hash on here and enter a number for whatever it would be. Names are easier to remember. But now I've enforced that it actually has a space for sure, that it won't eat. It knows I mean to add a space. Don't eat that. But these guys are just one space between. So one space, it won't eat the last bit of white space. So this is going to enforce those 5 spaces with these 2 entities in here, because I've got the 2 spaces in here, so we've got only 1 space to worry about on each, and it will preserve that. See, now I've got my 5 spaces. Now display tag, this wouldn't display at all, because it would mistake that for a tag if I didn't use entities here. So these guys, this is for the less than sign, ampersand LT. So anytime you see the ampersand and a semicolon and something between, that's a code for an entity. It means it's telling it to use a symbol there instead of that. Now if I just straight used, you know, the greater than sign, it would take that as a tag, and it would just say, well, this doesn't mean anything, but it's a tag, so I'm not going to display that. So it would just disappear. Okay. I'm going to have another one on here. In fact, actually, I'll just go ahead and say hide tag. And now you can see hide tag does not show up at all, because I didn't use the entities. It took it as a tag. But this one here, I have an entity for a less than sign. I have an entity for a greater than sign. So it took those. Now, to display an entity like that, this would be taken as an entity, and it'd be like, well, what do I do with this? To do that, I had to make it to where it was not an entity. So here, I had to use the ampersand entity. Oops. All right. I had to use the ampersand entity instead of the ampersand. Otherwise, it would have thought of that as an entity. So I used the ampersand display entity. Semicolon. There's not really an entity for that right there. I mean, not one I need to use anyway. This will work. And it displays down here. Now, how about quotes? If I wanted to put quotes in a value, such as for a button display, how do I do that? Because if I put quotes in here, it's going to think that I'm exiting or entering the quotes for the value. So here I'm going to use entities, a quote, and an apostrophe. See, if I just put the quote here, if I'd used a regular apostrophe, I was using apostrophes to open this. So it would have closed out here, and all of this would have been confusing jargon for it. But because I used the apostrophe, I enforced that it's a quote, an apostrophe, and an end quote within this. It's not to be mistaken as a part of that tag. And therefore, now I can have a button with things in there that should be part of the attributes quoting, but it's not going to be mistaked for that. I can use what I need on that. So I have access to those entities to be able to enforce that meaning. So those are some things that are additional tags and entities that you can use on your HTML pages. Thank you for watching.